Hello again, everyone. This is Louis Setti, the Blue Ridge Reporter, speaking on Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2 days after the Mike Huckabee organized Republican presidential debate, which was unique in recent years regarding its format, where each particular candidate had 11 minutes to answer questions from a panel of attorneys general without any criticism of the other candidates, so they would be focused instead on the issues, and the questions would be posed by some sharp questioners with significant knowledge about the constitutional format of this country. At one point at the end of the program, Ron Paul was asked this question: what one book would you recommend that Americans read? And Ron Paul suggested this book, The Law, by Frederic Bastiat. And I happen to have on my shelf, in fact, 3 copies of this book because I had read it some years ago. And for those of you who don't know about the book, I recommend it. It's a very insightful book. In fact, it is a classic, and it is an easy read. This particular publication, very thin, is just 75 pages or so. And let me just acquaint you with this book so that you might consider if this is something for your bookshelf as it was for mine. The Law was first published in June of 1850. It's had many printings since then. Bastiat was an economist and statesman and a member of the French General Assembly. Like Thomas Jefferson, at the outset of this book, Bastiat acknowledges and credits, of course, a creator God. Now, that's the same kind of natural law creator God that Jefferson mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, what I sometimes call the 4th of July God. It is not the triune God of the Bible, not to be confused, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's that generalized notion of God. Be that as it may, Bastiat begins with this premise that every man has the natural right, and that would come from natural law, to defend his person, liberty, and his property. And the thesis of the book is that the law is supposed to protect that for all men. At the time, in 1850, Bastiat was observing already in France the development of socialism, which is really a form of communism, more or less. And his book was written in response to that. And here is the key paragraph of the book regarding what I think was the reason that Ron Paul suggested this book, in which he only had a moment to speak about. And I'll quote from the book as follows: "The law has been used to destroy its own objective. It has been applied to annihilating the justice that it was supposed to maintain, to limiting and destroying rights which its real purpose was to respect. The law has placed the collective force at the disposal of the unscrupulous who wish, without risk, to exploit the person, liberty, and property of others." And that's the essence of socialism. And if I might put it more simplistically, in a homespun way, Citizen A is taxed by the government. They take his money and they pass it to Citizen B in exchange for Citizen B supporting the regime that controls the government. It's simply a transfer payment. And we see that going on, and we see that it has been going on consistently in this country for very many decades, deep back into the previous century, the 20th century. So it's nothing new although Tea Party types are starting to talk about socialism as something new with the Obama administration, but if you understand that's the basic format of socialism, it has not changed over the years and has been present. And an interesting aspect of this quote that I read to you, that the unscrupulous can engage in this without risk. A would not attack B directly and try to steal his money, but through the intermediary of the government, then A is essentially, B would not attack A to take his money, but through the intermediary of the government, then B is insulated from any risk to himself. It's really a cowardly system. So that's about this book, The Law. Now, Ron Paul did not mention the Bible. Not an easy read, not a quick read, but all these principles could be found in the scriptures as well. Thou shalt not steal implies there is private property, and theft can be done through the intermediary of a government, through the agency of a government, just as easily as it can be done by one person stealing directly from another. And I would recommend a considered review of the scriptures to also make that point in a completely authoritative and ultimate way. This is Lou Rossetti speaking, the Blue Ridge Reporter.